Okay, boys and girls, I'm sorry for the late video. I was on a work retreat the last couple of days and was not able to record my video. Wanted to record the video. We had a costume thing, we had a Halloween thing while we were there, so almost recorded it in costume, but decided not to. It was just a little too rushed. I think you guys deserve better than that, so I didn't really want to take away from your experience. So really big week last week. A lot of crazy shit did happen. So just want to go over, obviously, my predictions from last week. And then I know a few of you specifically reached out to me because you felt slighted about my opposite pick. And, we're really just excited for me to speak about my predictions from last week going into next week. So just to kind of get off the rip on it, my prediction for last week was that I was going to beat Ryan Chance. And let me just say, Ryan, what a fucking, what a game. What a game. I was projected to win for most of it, but then there at the end, it started sneaking up on us. I had a few guys that just dropped the ball, specifically guys like Austin Eckler. Like, what in the fuck is he up to right now? I don't fucking know. And then you had a few guys go off. I mean, Travis Kelce was your whole entire team. Travis Kelce scored 35.9 points, and then your second highest scorer was Jalen Waddle with 12. So it's like, Travis Kelce absolutely just carried you. Almost to victory, but not quite. For those of you guys that don't know, it came down. I was up by 6.4 or 6.35 points going into the last game where Ryan just had Alexander Madison. So 6.4 points and above, Ryan beats me. Alexander Madison scored 6.2 points, and on the final drive, they ran, I can't remember who the backup running back is. I think it's Cam Akers, Did not run Alexander Madison once. They were just running Cam Akers, and they still put off that dub against the Niners. So, which also, on that note as well, really good news for the boys. Brock Purdy's out. Sam Darnold's playing. So when they play the Bengals this week, we're looking at a Sam Darnold-led 49ers team. So they're on a 2-game lose streak, which I know some people would be like, well, they're due. They're not going to lose 3 in a row. But I think they're going to lose 3 in a row. Honestly, I feel really good going into this next week. Coming off a bye week, Bengals, rested up Bengals, playing a team that's on a short rest, where they played on Monday. They had a short rest, we had a long rest. I think that's a dub, boys. That's what I'm thinking. So, regardless, I got that correct with your boy getting the dub. So, we're starting up the winning streak. Next, we had Jacob Bessiker versus a Connor Walsh, which I think was a closer matchup than a lot of us thought. I thought picking Walsh over Bess was an easier decision than breathing, which, mind you, Walsh still won by double digits, but Bess would have beat me last week. He had almost 120, about 118.88. Good, respectable number in a 12-man league. I mean, I think you get anything above 100 is pretty good in 12-man, and then anything above like 110, 120, that's when you're like, oh shit, you got a team that's doing something over there. You got something in the water over there in your program. So Walsh ended up winning, super consistent. Didn't have any guys that played outrageous. Didn't have any of those crazy 30, 40-point scores, but he had several 20-plus guys. So that, obviously, that's going to get the job done. So really good on you, Walsh. Very impressive week, my man. So that makes me, so far, 2 for 2. Which I know I'm coming up on some incorrect ones based on the comments I received. So the next one we're going over is going to be a Hunter Stevens versus a Connor Daniels. Now, in this situation, I did pick Connor Daniels, and I know Hunter felt slighted because of that pick, and he made sure to reach out and let me know about it. And Connor just didn't show up this week. He wasn't the lowest scorer in the league this week, but still, it didn't show up. It was 128.26 to 85.16, so lost by about a 50 bomb there. I mean, that's tough. It's a tough one. I don't think you're out of it. Maybe you need to make some trades. is kind of what it looks like. But it looks like old Hunter Stevens had a good week. He had a few of those guys that are fringe guys that you don't know if they're going to play that good any given week, step up and have a good week. So that's definitely going to come out and get you the dub. So we're going incorrect on that one. That's 2 for 3 for those of you keeping track at home. Next, we have a Blake Benson versus a Dalton Bates. In this situation, I picked Blake Benson. Great week for Blake Benson. I will say this was more so the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs. He's been kind of getting teased, just getting the tip put in, and that's it for the first few weeks of the season. And now he finally came out, had a great showing, 27.6 fantasy points. It's a respectable number for running back, so I'm glad they're finally trusting him and kind of letting him move the rock. Poor QB play from both teams here. Jared Goff with 9.36, Matthew Stafford with about 14, which I feel like QB play this year, there hasn't, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm interested to know what other people think, but I feel like in comparison to previous years, I feel like the amount of passing touchdowns in general are lower than normal. I mean, I feel like 3+ touchdown passing touchdown games were much more frequent in previous years, and I feel like if you get 2 or more passing touchdowns or two passing touchdowns in a game, it's like a good respectable game for a lot of quarterbacks right now. So it's kind of a weird kind of thing here. So interested to see how that trend continues. Next, let's see. So I got Blake. So that is 3 for 4. 3 for 4 correct there. Next, we're going to a Mr. Adam Burbrink. So I was correct on this one as well. I know Adam was pretty hype about the fact that I finally picked him last week, and he was able to kind of step up and do me some good, do me some justice there. I mean, great for you, man. 120.6 to 104.08, and that was against a Colin Higas, a Mr. Hebe Master. Both solid efforts. I think Hebe Master just had a couple guys that just didn't show up, just didn't get the job done. And I mean, obviously, never like to see that. I just love that there's a D Hopkins on your roster, and that D Hopkins is not DeAndre Hopkins, but he's a kicker. Dustin Hopkins. It's just funny seeing him on paper, D Hopkins. He was your highest scorer last week, Colin, with 22 points as your kicker, which is, I mean, a crazy stat line for a kicker. But fuck the Browns. So that makes me, what was that, 4 for 5. And then coming in on the last one here, and you can tell I'm getting fucking better at this prediction shit, because I was 5 for 6. Only one I got wrong was Connor and Hunter. So I could have been 6 for 6, which would have been sick. But Mr. Matthew Reynolds versus a Mr. Dawson Hogan, 126.86 from the kid Matthew Reynolds, and then 106.22 from my guy Dawson Jean. I mean, pretty good week for Matthew Reynolds. I mean, Alvin Kamara's finally showing up. I know he's kind of fucking old for running back, but he's showing up. He can still have those big breakout games when given the opportunity. So good to see from that guy there. So 5 for 6. I think we're trending in the right direction. I started at about 50%, the correct guess ratio, and now I'm kind of moving towards that. I'm feeling it. I'm gonna have a 100% week here soon. I don't know if it's gonna be this week, next week, or how that's gonna work, but it's coming. It's coming. So we're gonna go into the predictions for next week. Like always, starting off, because it just throws my name at the top up here, it's going to be me versus a Mr. Dalton Bates. So Dalton Bates projection, a little bit low. As you guys know, I'm not going to pull up your full roster to see. I don't know if you maybe have a guy that's injured in your starting lineup right now that you need to adjust, but it's Thursday, so it's getting to a time where you should probably get that figured out. But it looks like projections, me 122.2 as of right now, and then 110 for Dalton. I think Dalton's on a little bit of a losing streak, unfortunately. And obviously, everything I'm saying right now is all formalities, because it's going to be no surprise to anybody that I'm going to pick myself. Like, that's obvious. Like, I hope you guys don't like start off by being like, oh, maybe is he gonna pick against himself this week? No, I'm not. I am picking myself always. Just because, I mean, fucking gotta believe in yourself. I think there for a while I was at the back of the league, and now I'm joined by, I think there's 4 total teams that are 2-5 with me right now. So I think that's a good thing for, honestly, a lot of us that are 2-5, because that just means that some of those people are going to sink to the bottom, and then that gives a chance for a few of us to rise up and really take advantage. And like I said, we're going to do a top 3 in each division is going to make it to the playoffs this year. We might do a first round bye for the first seeds in both, but it's going to be top 3 in each, just to kind of keep the competitive juices flowing. So very, very big news for a lot of people, including myself. I know, obviously, that didn't have the hottest start. That's definitely going to be a gracious award to us. Next, we got a Connor Walsh versus Hunter Stevens. And I hope you don't get mad at me, Hunter, because I know that you were slighted by me picking Connor last week. But, I mean, I think we all know you just can't pick against Connor Walsh right now. Like, he is absolutely on fire. I don't know if you guys look at, like, stat lines as far as, like, if you go to the leaderboards and, you know, see the records, you can see points scored against, and, you know, all that additional information. And, I mean, Connor Walsh has the most points scored, and then I think he either has the most points scored against him, or he's top like 2 or 3 in most points scored against him, and he's still 7-0. So if anything, that just tells you that's a high quality team, because he's playing tough competition and still pulling out dubs every fucking week. But his projection for next week is 138, which, I mean, that's a ridiculous projection, absolutely ridiculous projection for an 8-man league, for a 10-man league. So for a 12-man league to have a fucking 138-point projection, absolutely fucking bonkers, dude. Absolutely fucking bonkers. So I think it's no surprise to anybody that I'm going to be picking Connor Walsh to get the W. Only time I'm going to bet against Connor Walsh is, honestly, I'm being honest here, just when he's playing me, and that's literally fucking it. That's the only time I'm probably going to bet against Connor this season, unless he just has some absolutely catastrophic injuries on the squad. But, I mean, regardless, I think he's got some good depth. Next, we are going to a Connor Daniels versus a Blake Benson. So, tough one here, kind of, just because I know Connor's had a few down weeks here. I know he's had a few holes he's trying to fill in his team. Pause. But, I mean, with that, I'm probably going to have to play Blake Benson in this, just because, obviously, with the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs really taking on a big role, I think that added a lot of depth to Blake Benson's team. I do think that you do have a few overrated guys on your team that I don't believe are going to go and be massive players in the future, but I think it's going to probably be enough to get you the dub versus Mr. Connor Daniels. So that's why I'm going to be picking Mr. Blake W. Bonson for the dub in the matchup against Connor Daniels, which, let me mention, is a 130.9 projection, Blake Benson. So that's a pretty fucking respectable number, I mean, honestly. So pretty solid looking team. Obviously, I like to say, too, I don't put a ton of stock in projections, but I think it's ridiculous to say that it's not worth something. You know, it's obviously an indicator of something. So next, we're going to be going down to an Adam Burbrink versus a Ryan Chance, which is a tough one. I will say. I think you can't sleep on Ryan's team. I know that I got decently lucky against him last week. In this situation, I do think I'm going to have to pick Adam. I think I'm going to have to pick Adam in this situation. I know that's going to make you happy, man, but I think you just have a few guys, Ryan, that are just not showing up. I mean, Alexander Madison, I was staying away from him this year in the draft because we got to see him take over the number 1 role fully at the end of last year, before Dalvin Cook got traded away when he was hurt at the tail end of last season. Because I know before, he was the best cuff in the league as far as Dalvin Cook was out for a game. You were picking up Alexander Madison, and he was dropping a 20 bomb for you. But there at the tail end of last season, when he kind of got to take over that number 1 role, he really wasn't doing too much. And I mean, he hasn't had a terrible season. He's in double digits pretty much every week, but he's still, it's more like 10 points, 12 points, 15 points. I think he's had a 20-point week, maybe two 20-point weeks, but he's definitely not that crazy explosive guy. I mean, maybe that cuff was his role, because if he's super well rested, wasn't getting crazy touches, maybe that made him a little bit more explosive to step into that role and be able to score those big games and then just kind of fall back behind the scenes after the fact. But I'm going to be giving Adam the win this week. I think he does have some momentum going for him. Next, we're going to be doing a Colin versus a Dawson Hogan, which is a tough one here. Dawson's projection's looking a little bit low. So I'm not sure if it's a situation where you have some people that are out or if the projections are just looking a little slim. I know that Dawson had Justin Jefferson get injured, and I know that obviously is going to put a glaring hole on anybody's roster. I haven't kept up a ton with the Justin Jefferson situation. Don't know how long he's going to be out, but I know that's going to put a damper on you. So I'm going to have to, really for that reason, with him just being such a pivotal piece of any fantasy team, I think that's putting a big damper on you, especially because Kirk Cousins is your quarterback, so it's like that's going to shave some points off of his score every week. I know they beat the Niners last week, but I don't think Kirk Cousins had a crazy game that week. I think he just kind of obviously skated away off some situations there. So nonetheless, going to be picking Colin in this matchup this week. And last but not least, we have a Jacob Bessiker versus a Matthew Reynolds. So 2 4-3 teams going after it. And let me just say too, I mentioned before, Connor Walsh has a 138 projection, but Mr. Matthew Reynolds has a 138.1 projection. So technically highest projection in the league by 0.1 over Connor Walsh. So pretty fucking crazy shit, man. Pretty crazy shit. Team is looking juicy. I mean, I don't understand why Patrick Mahomes has a 24.34 projection. I think that's the highest projection for any player, quarterback, let alone player, though, in the league. So, I mean, he had a great week last week. He scored 33 points, but, there's also been a lot of weeks this year where Patrick Mahomes was not doing that. So, I don't know who they're playing, but I'm assuming that also means that they're probably playing somebody that's not the best. But Matthew's lineup is just looking pretty juicy right now. I mean, we got 3 players that are projected near that 20-point number. Jamar Chase over, Alvin Kamara just under, and then obviously Patrick Mahomes, like I mentioned, is 24 point something. So some pretty juicy projections coming from the kid there. I'm going to have to give it to Matt. I mean, it's not just based on projections. Best's projection is 108.6, but I mean, Matt's been on a little bit of a heater too. He's had some pretty big weeks, so I'm going to have to give it to Matt here. So, big question here. Is this going to be the first week where I drop the 6 for 6 predictions? I don't know. I think it's going to come down to whether or not I can win my matchup, which I think I will. Unfortunately for Dalton, I know he's been having some tough weeks as of recent, so I think there's a decent chance. And I just noticed something really funny about Dalton's team on this projection thing. It shows me the top 3 players on the scoreboard here for every team. And it's funny because Dalton's team is showing me 2 of his 3 top scorers are Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence. But they're only supposed to be people that are actually in your lineup physically. So I am going to pull up his team because that is very confusing that it's trying to say that he's starting Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence. Interested to see how teams change. I think there's going to be a lot of bench movement from a lot of people here. League's been a little bit nutty as far as injuries and everything like that. But do want to say real quick before I end everything off, Bengals-Niners this week. It's a must-win game. I don't know if you guys saw, but our schedule for the rest of the season is rated as the second hardest schedule in the whole league. 32 teams, second hardest schedule in the fucking league. And I mean, luckily we're getting on the right track because we fucking have to play some of these teams. I think we can pull it out against the Niners team, and I think that's going to be a real decision maker for how the rest of the season is going to play out. So we'll see what happens with that. But regardless, I mean, you know, like I said before, sorry for coming in late with this recap this week, but hope everybody had a great week. This episode is brought to you by Duke's Mayo. Nobody fucking uses that mayo. I know they sponsor a college bowl, Duke's Mayo Bowl, but like, who the fuck uses Duke's Mayo? It's probably some fucking state specifically, like fucking Idaho or fucking Nebraska or some fucking stupid shit like that. But regardless, fucks Duke's Mayo, but they sponsor this video, so, you know, shout out to them for keeping the lights on, paying the bills, keeping me in a shelter here. So, again, everybody have a great week. Thank you for tuning in. If you watched the end of this one, I think this one might be the longest one by like 30 seconds. But regardless, thank you guys for tuning in. Best of luck to everybody this week, and would love to hear your thoughts on some of the topics discussed in the group chat this week. So, we'll see you, boys.